Salud, I am the Rasta Witch. Here's where we learn the way of the Yansway Rasta, which is to say, my kind of Ital. Please subscribe and begin your own kind of Yansway witchcraft. All roads lead to Rome. Home. So, as I watch all these videos like everybody else about the Israeli-Hamas conflict, I'll listen to one rabbi talk about how secularism has always failed and how that's what's to blame for all this, and obviously he's in favor of the Zionist perspective on Judaism. And then I'll listen to one or two or three other Jewish rabbis that talk about how the Zionists are using the religion for non-religious purposes, and that's not really living the religion, and I have to admit, like that's what I agree with, how secularism isn't what's to blame. How could someone believe that? The neither side of it, the attacks from neither side, neither of those people are secular. How does secularism have anything to do with any of this? That rabbi is only upset at secular thinking because the obvious solution is coming from the secular-minded people. And so he's mad at him because humanity's progressed to the point where it's becoming more and more obvious that governments need to be ruled in a secular way. And so it's to the point where it's becoming implied. And so he's trying to push a nationalist agenda. And so that's just what human nature does. If you're pushing an agenda like that, then you attack the opposite agenda, the opposing agenda, But the problem with the nationalist type thinking is nationalist thinkers, they believe that God, whether it's Yahweh or whoever you think God is, and they would have a God with a name, in a specific religion, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam, that's the religion. And so if it's Yahweh, they think that Yahweh is the same today, yesterday, and forever, which is completely irresponsible. They haven't done enough research to know that Yahweh is not the same today, yesterday, and forever. Yahweh was a deity that was chosen from a bunch of deities in a pagan world, and wasn't even the first deity that was created. There's just none of the data can support the idea that Yahweh's been the same today, yesterday, and forever. It was an evolving thing. Allah comes from Eloah, or is it Eloah? Elohim. Elohim is God in plural. Is the word God in Hebrew that's plural, Elohim. Eloah is singular. Allah comes from the singular, because the whole point of Islam is to not be a pagan during a pagan time in their people's history. But the truth is, so it comes from the Hebrew, but the truth is the word Elohim, the Hebrew word Elohim, isn't the original word for God. The word was taken from another pantheon where El was the Most High God. El, it means like the Mighty One, and Elohim means plural for God. Those roots existed before Hebrew. Or I don't know if it was before Hebrew, but the Hebrew word was borrowed from a different language, a different pantheon, where it was the Most High God, and the effigy of the bull and all that. There's just in no way can the data support the idea that God's been the same today, yesterday, and forever. Truly, all gods are made by the hand of man. Okay, we need to mature our egos in our path of ego development, we need to mature our egos enough to realize that's not true. God doesn't know every hair on your head. God doesn't know every grain of sand on the beach. Those things are those are just metaphors for the sky's the limit. Like when someone says, "I believe anything's possible if you put your mind to it." You know, that's just a positive thinking that gets things done, but it's not. That's also not true. And nothing is. I mean, anything isn't possible. There's still, even in the that powerful mentality that gets things done, there still are limits. There's always limits, and even with our deity concepts, there's limits. God is not the same today, yesterday, and forever. God did not create the universe. We're connected to the creative force that creates things, and so it's implied that that same force has created the universe. But it's just because they're eternal concepts. When we realize, that that there's other suns, and that our sun is just a star, that was already true before we knew that, But now we know that, and it's an eternal concept. But we go developing and learning, and words are just tools that also are invented. Adam, and you can see my video at the beginning of my Bible discussions playlist about the Adam and Eve story, which was taken from an Egyptian mythology, Atum. And Atum antedates Enki. Many experts would agree, but not all of them. These things, they're all made, so the national thinking just doesn't work. It's time that we mature in our knowledge and our learning to recognize that only a secular take. So the rabbi's argument that secularism has to blame, what he means is, he means if we were to think more secularly, it looks like being secular is the solution, which is in favor of the two-party state thing. But in my previous video, part A of this, and I'll leave a link in the description box, I don't think that that's going to work either, but maybe I'm wrong. If you guys can do it, do it, Even here in America, we can't do it right now. We got the right-wingers who are pretty much nationalists, nationalist authoritarian, because that's their program. And how they could do that to our country, It wasn't founded on Christianity. It's just, how could they believe that, So America is an example of how, how secularism eventually can get dominated out by nationalism. We'll see what happens in our next election. That's pretty much what's going on in America, is do we stay secular or do we turn into a nationalist state, a nationalist authoritarian state? That's obviously the day and age. It's not just America, our whole species, the whole planet. That's where we are in our development. We're trying to decide, do we be secular, like the American Constitution says, freedom of religion, freedom to free agency and unity and diversity with a higher loyalty to international citizenship? Do we do that like Selassie I's speech before the League of Nations in 1936 when he opened the second seal? Do we do that? Like Bob Marley's song War, if you want to hear what that speech is, Bob Marley turned it into a song, his song War. Do we do that, which is secularism, or do we do nationalism and let everybody just try to take over the world? But I guess under those people don't care about the UN, they don't care about their international citizenship and international morality, so we need that. That's what we need. That's what we need right now with the Israeli-Hamas conflict. Higher loyalty to your international citizenship, secondary loyalty to your national citizenship. And then governments need to be ruled by a secular mind, you know. So that rabbi, he says that secularism failed, and he brings up like the Germans. I think he means the Nazis, you know, and which it's just his mentality just doesn't make any sense. You know, you can, it's a lie. He's lying pretty much, which is one of the 10 Commandments. I thought he's not supposed to lie. You know, that's a lie. That's not. He's protecting the Zionist thinking. How is Zionist thinking? That's nationalist. You know, how how is secularism failing? And another point is that secularism never had a chance, you know. That's not true. You know, the world, our history, in world history, our history is that all of our problems, the wars and all of our problems, and you know this is true, was because of nationalist thinkers. You know, world history isn't filled with examples of secularism failing. Rather, the world is filled with examples of nationalism failing.